Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I'm your host, Sean Garmer, here with me as always, Mr. Mark Morrison.
Howdy.
Well, we have a few things to talk about here, namely the newly released today, Sea of Stars. I've been playing that. I'll talk about that here. Mark has been playing another game that starts with an S, Strangers in Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. So we'll get to hear his thoughts on that. So Microsoft and Xbox have been in the news a lot this past week outside of what's been going on at Gamescom. So we'll get into all of their things. We'll talk about some of that opening night live as well. And that PlayStation Portal has finally got a name and a price and all that. We'll talk about that and a few other things as well. So let's go ahead and get to that opening right about now.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
Well, so just go ahead and get this thing going here. Let's go ahead and get the housekeeping out of the way. If this is the first time listening or 100th time listening, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us here. And hopefully you will continue to watch or listen. And if you'd like to do that, you can do that very simply here by subscribing to the YouTube channel, WWF Network, and then, of course, going on and also subscribing on the podcast side. If you prefer the audio side, you can go and find us Video Games to the Max wherever there are podcasts, and you can go and just find it there, subscribe, follow, whatever it is that you use, whether it's Spotify, our radio, iTunes, all of that. We are there. You can find us. And of course, if you subscribe to the YouTube page, you'll get not only what we do here on the video game side, you do our partners over there, Routes and Broadcasting. They do all the entertainment stuff. So last week they reviewed Blue Beetle. This week, for some reason, I can't think of the movie that just came out. I hate it when I'm doing this and I'm drawing a total blank. Absolute terrible.
Gran Turismo?
Yes, Gran Turismo, a video game movie. There you go. And apparently, you'll find out if the critics were right or wrong. And apparently, this is actually a very good movie. So now I'm actually kind of thinking about going to the theater and seeing it. To be honest, since they have that $5 thing here. But I've got to catch up on a bunch of other movies that I haven't watched yet. So, or just wait for all that to hit streaming. One of the two. Which I guess Gran Turismo will at some point show up on Netflix. I don't know how Sony's deal with them works, but either way, yeah, definitely you can go check that out. News Keiki is up there as well if you want to know all the things going on with anime, and then you can go ahead and yeah, I don't know that Jens and Randy have done a chat select in a while, but that's up there as well. The video game movie review folks. So I guess at some point they'll review Gran Turismo to know when that will be. So without further ado, I don't know because they have a schedule, and then I think that with all the things both of them have going on, they get behind. So yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and move on to what we're playing. I guess go ahead and start with you, Mark, because mine's probably going to be on the longer side.
Yeah, I got about halfway through Jedi Survivor, and this kind of, well, I went in the hospital, and then I came back to it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of bored. So I gave that up for a while, and I bought Strangers in Paradise like 3 or 4 months ago, because I heard about the crazy shit that goes on in that game, and
chaos, definitely.
Well, that and like Jack is the most like Limp Bizkit listening to motherfucker ever, which is just hilarious to think of in like a Final Fantasy hero sense. So I'm about 12 hours into it. It's good. I actually like really oddly like it, which is strange because I hated the demo.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that. They both.
Yeah, like
We talked about
I
the
think I
demo and you
died in the
hated it.
demo, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Fuck
Yeah.
this," or Uh, but I just picked up the third crystal. You get like a choice between doing like the fire and earth crystal, and I did both of them because it's story mandated. But uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. I like the fact that there are side missions for most levels that are basically just run back through the level backward.
Yeah.
Uh, what else? The thing, I mean, I like that it's multiplayer, but Jens doesn't want to play it with me, or he doesn't want to. I mean, I think he derisively called it like a Neo Light or Souls Light, and I'm like, so
Yes,
like
it is. Yeah.
the game is
But
like
that's
stupid
what's cool.
easy.
It's got.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not for me that doesn't play those at all. It did. There was a learning curve. It took me a
right.
bit to kind of get used to that and understanding the blocking and all of that. Because I don't play those games that much. But for you or Jens, I'm sure it was much easier. And yes, I probably for you guys it would be stupid easy. But the whole point of it is that it's like a fun game that has Final Fantasy shit in it, and
No, I mean, no, it doesn't. Like that's the funny part to me.
it does have some of it. Yeah,
It has chaos, but like that's the only thing. I get to see a
it has
choke.
the
I mean,
crystals and
well, it has like
yeah,
a few, like it has some of the enemies, like Cactar
yeah.
or
But
Conda,
it's
but
based
like
on Final Fantasy 1, so it's
sure, yeah,
not like it. Remember that was the game that before they established everything else. That
right.
has to do with Final Fantasy, so
I get to see
yeah.
Chocobo or Cease to pop up. Let's say that.
Yeah.
uh,
Well, plus that game, it tries to kind of be low budget as well. It's, like,
yeah,
there's no worlds
right. And like you just talk to the
map
same six
or
people constantly.
yes.
It's really okay. The really weird thing about that game to me is the gear system. Like
Yes.
in a given mission, you get over 100 pieces of gear easily.
Mhm.
Uh, to the
And you're
effect that like
constantly going to the menu every 2 or 3 minutes to look at what gear you got and
no,
see if
I don't. I just say
no,
fuck
you
it.
don't?
I
Okay.
just keep rolling because it doesn't matter at all. To the point where like they have an automatic dismantle system where you can set up like various uh filters or like rules like oh if I want to auto dismantle every piece of gear under level 20 or like under level that has like stars or below and stuff like that. Uh i i don't change any of my gear. I just say like auto do what you think is best and that's it. Because you get so much many pieces of gear that it just becomes insane. And
Yeah, no,
it's like the
like
Diablo problem of like none of this matters.
yeah, and then they have the, like, different pieces, right? The, like, rare and
Yeah,
all
it's
that
like
other stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of follows the color trinity of like blue, but it doesn't follow it correctly because it goes like blue, purple, or I think it's like
It has
blue.
orange, if I remember right, like
I haven't seen orange. But
yeah.
I think it goes like blue, yellow, purple, or blue, yellow, green, purple. I think purple is like the max I've seen so far. That's not quite correct, at least for this type of like loot rarity system, but it's close enough. Uh, but yeah, it's nuts. And like, it's like you can't pause the game or like pausing. Like you have like a menu, but the game doesn't actually pause when you go into it. You have to, like press the pause button, which is baffling because it's like the game should like you'd think the game would want to pause so you could change classes or do shit, but you can't. Like not when you're in the middle of battle, where it might actually be useful. Uh, I'm enjoying it. Like I'll probably finish that game at least 1 or 2 rounds because I know it's like pretty cyclical and like new game plus or that's the whole point really.
Yes,
Play it again. Uh,
exactly. Oh, but they have the DLC also.
well, I know
They have
that, but
like
I mean
2 or
like
3 different DLCs.
yeah, there's 3. But I know like oh to unlock chaos difficulty you have to beat the game once because I looked at the trophy list and I'm like oh it's like do you care about trophies at all or no?
Not really. I mean,
I mean,
if I'm playing a game, I do.
if it's for a
but
game I really like, then I'll care. Like when I did Persona 5, that one I was like, this game isn't going to beat me. I'm going to beat this fucker. But
right,
most of the time I don't care. So I looked at or I might give like a cursory look, like what am I going to miss anything, or is the potential to miss anything? But it's funny because like Jens really cares about trophies, and it's like, why? Like
yeah. Randy is big on trophies as well. Yeah,
I mean, for some stuff I guess maybe, but it's like, oh, he was concerned about like the Diablo 4 trophies, and I'm like, you don't even like the game. Like, what the fuck does this matter to you at all? Like, uh, so yeah, I looked at like there's like a chaos difficulty mode once you beat the game. Uh, but yeah, I like it. The characters are so dumb, it's great. Uh, and it's like it really is like gothic Barbie Dreamhouse game or like dress up game because you get so many pieces of dumb clothing that looks like it belongs in a Lacuna Coil music video or some gothic, metal band. It's like I can see all of you people wearing all this stuff all the time. But I like it, and the combat is pretty good. And that one hit kill thing is hysterical. Because Jack is like suplexing enemies uh like left and right to do his attack thing or his big dumb I'm getting magic back thing. And it seems like Sean has dropped out for a second. Hopefully he'll come back because I don't want to keep talking for a while longer. Uh, what else? I got to the Limp Biscuit episode or part of the game as well. That's like 20 minutes. Oh, that's the first mission where he gets a call and he's like, "Fuck it," and then he plays like almost like Limp Biscuit sounding music ever. He walks away. And I'm like, "Yep, I know what this game's all about."
Awesome. Apparently, we are still alive here. Let me grab Mark again. I don't. Sorry to everybody that was possibly watching at some point. Okay, let me get Mark really quick so we can keep going. So apologies again if you were watching live. My laptop froze right when my daughter decided to walk by. I don't think she hit anything. I think as my laptop had been on for a while and they decided that it had enough. What's weird is it didn't turn off on me. It just everything froze. So,
It's like I've been here before.
right. Yeah. So,
Well, it started like 12:30, so you can know where to cut it off and edit it then.
yeah.
But
I don't know where you were in your explanation of whatever it was you
no,
were talking
that's
about.
about it. Yeah, you'll. I just kind of drifted off. But I like
Okay.
Chains of Paradise. I'll finish it. I mean, it came out last year, but I mean, it might have made like my
Now
game of the year list, or not. Obviously, not like top of the list or anything, but would have had somewhere.
Yeah,
I,
we can maybe do something about old games we played or something like that.
I haven't played it, but I know Jens is really like an Armored Core 6.
He's actually playing a game besides something with you. What a miracle.
Well, he's also playing that weird musical game that.
Stray Gods.
Yeah, he likes that a lot. But Armored Core 6, like it's more of an investment, like to get into.
Right.
So I think he's only played like a handful of times, which is funny because he never played that franchise before. And I'm
That's
glad.
weird. Doesn't he like mechs or?
I think I mean, yeah, but I mean that was a pretty niche franchise, and it's not like From Software was on anyone's radar before. Dark Souls and Demon Souls and shit like that. So
right. Now I remember that Tunic also came out the same week, and that's what I was playing instead of
Stranger Paradise.
I played this and Tunic at the same time, but I wound up playing more Tunic, and then that's why this kind of fell by the wayside. And then I can't. Nothing else for that. Rest of the month came out that I was. Yeah, but
yeah.
I was also playing Triangle Strategy as well too. So. Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm feeling pretty ambivalent about new games. Like I'd like to play Armored Core, but I'll wait till it goes on sale. Same with like Hogwarts, or same with other stuff. I just want to buy.
Hogwarts hasn't gone on a sale yet. I'm surprised.
Not really. No.
It's probably at least gone to like 50 or 45. It's just I know you're probably looking for something cheaper.
No, it hasn't. Like
really?
Yeah, like Amazon still has it for 70. And let me check.
Not even one digital sale at all?
GameStop has it for 55 used. Which is,
I mean, yeah, that's
slightly okay, but
that's what 45 would have been if it was 60.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that seems about right.
But yeah, the last thing I did, or the last big game thing I did, is I bought a copy of Kuon.
That's the game you were talking about last week, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
With a nice fat $700 price tag.
Wow.
Which is actually was a good deal.
You actually paid the whole $700?
Hell no.
Okay, let's
no.
say. Okay.
I traded in my Game Boy Advance SP, my copy of Chrono Trigger, like a Blu-ray set I don't care about. The two funniest things what happened was I tried to trade in my TurboGrafx 16 because there's a store down the road, like 3 miles down. Like it is a strict used game store, and I knew they would give me $100 cash or like 130 store credit or 120, I think, because they post their buy prices every month. So the store I was selling this system at for Kuon, I was like, if they give me a little less, I'm fine. If they give me like 90 in store credit or like 100 in store credit, that's fine. You know, they were going to give me like $67 in store credit. And I was like, fuck this. So I took it back, went down to the other game store, and sold it there for cash, and then came back like a half hour later. I don't know. It was like really weird because it's like I can easily prove that they'll give me $100 in cash, like they have pictures saying what they'll give.
Right.
The other funny thing that happened was, if you spend $100, you get 100 points, and basically that turns into like a 10% off coupon.
Okay.
It's 10% off, max $25. So like, let's say you buy $1,000 game or something, like the max discount would only be $25 because they don't want to give you 10% because that's $100.
Right.
So I had one of those coupons, or I had one of those discounts, and the clerk ringing me up, she was like, well, I need to ask the manager, because she was like, well, I'm only supposed to give you $25 off. I just kind of nodded my head. I'm like, okay, yeah, like I've been through this drill. And the guy came over and he was like, no, give him the 10%. And she was like, no, because that's $70. Like that's more than the $25. And he was like, no, give him the 10%. And he did this like 3 or 4 times. And she was like, I don't want to get in trouble. And he was like, well, this is like, I'm the assistant manager telling you to do this, so it's fine. And she was like, all right. And then she gave me the $70 off. And I'm like, I'm not going to.
You know what? You never hear that from any other store. Any other store would have said, the girl's right.
Yeah, exactly. I knew she was right too. I mean, yeah.
Wow. It's because the manager's job is to make you pay the most money so they get the most profit. Wow.
I guess they went to, she said they went through like new training. They may have gotten like a new PO, like a point of sale system or something. So I was supposed to probably do it automatically, but I guess the new one doesn't do that or whatever. Or I mean, who knows? But I was like, I ain't gonna argue. I'll just take this game and go and run.
Right? Yeah,
run
exactly.
Like,
let me get out of here before they figure out they did the wrong thing.
Yeah, until they chase me down in the parking lot and say, "Hey, pay more." And I'm like, "No, I'm out of the store later."
All right. So, anything else?
Not really. I'm just happy to have Kuon. I bought a case for it.
That's awesome.
I'll never play it, but that's like an early From Software game, which Jens had no clue about, which I thought was funny.
But that's cool. I mean, now it's a collector's item, and as they've sort of soft announced an Elden Ring 2 as they get more and more popular. Something like Kuon is going to be even more and more valuable. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool right there.
Right.
So getting on to, I guess, one of the headline things here. I've been playing Sea of Stars for most of the day as I sit here and realize that I didn't have my freaking I love having to be producer while I'm also having to talk at the same time. So yeah. It's I'm sitting here trying to play this trailer at the same time that I'm doing this. Anyway, so most of y'all have probably, if you are on the internet at all, have heard that this was a Kickstarter game that all of a sudden got a publishing deal with the Tinsley folks. They're also the ones that do Devolver Digital's PR and a bunch of other people's PR. So they've been getting increasing hype since the game, got delayed and has been at several different, it's been at Nintendo Directs. It's been at, it was at the, what is it? Oh my God, whatever Keeley, the Summer Games Fest thing. It's had several demos. So you probably, if you're in the gaming sphere, you've had a chance an opportunity or you've seen that this is available for it to be played. I played the demo. I already knew I was gonna love this game because it's inspired by Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, all those old SNES RPGs. And then of course Yushinori Matsuda is doing some of the music that also worked on Chrono Trigger. So that's also a amazing win there. It was funny. I was in one of the opening areas and somebody called me, and of course I had that on the background, and they're like, "Oh, that music is so soothing, but it's actually really good." It's like I kind of want to go to sleep, but also it's good. So,
Right.
and this is they know what video games are. They kind of a gamer, but they're not a gamer like me, you and I. So,
Right. Casual.
yeah, very casual. So she likes playing Marble Snap, and now she's on things that have to do with playing games on your phone. So that being said, this game, I feel like if you didn't see all the review roundup, it's been getting 10s and 9s, and the completionist gave it his game of the year for right now, and this is after everything that's already come out. Of course, you still have Starfield, and if you haven't played Baldur's Gate because you don't play PC games, that's still coming, and we have more on the Baldur's Gate Xbox scenario in a second, or not a second, but a little bit later. So this game for me, I haven't I've gotten past the, I guess what you would consider the tutorial area or the opening area, and now into like where you're kind of doing your own thing.
Right.
And I really like the opening setup. I love the characters so far. I've heard the story apparently takes a while to get going, and that might be one of the negatives as far as like just kind of surmising reviews. I'm trying not to read reviews thoroughly. So, but it is on Game Pass. It is on PS Plus as well. So if you don't have Game Pass but you have PS Plus, you can play it in either one. Um, it's like I said, it's a JRPG based on turns. It has a lot the Chrono Trigger like combo system as well. The characters are kind of modeled in the same kind of way. It has but the turn based stuff is fun. Like you can see when the enemies are going to attack, which is helpful to let you know what you should be doing. And also, there's like a little wheel that pops up uh, above one of the, because there's usually multiple enemies in a battle unless you're fighting a boss,
Right. Yeah.
that you have, it'll tell you like what their weakness is basically. And then based on how many turns they have coming, you then have to decide, like, based on whichever one of the characters you're using, has a turn at that time. Oh, can you actually do this before that enemy's turn comes up? Which I have had that happen where I was able to have the combo ready and I knocked off the two things that were on the roll, and I basically stopped them from attacking for that turn, and I got an extra turn based off of it. A lot of times, because of which character's turn you have, you're not going to be able to block it. So it's just kind of there. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do anything about it, but you can. It also has a different system that where you kind of have to be. It's turn based, but you kind of have to be active because you have the ability to, every time you attack, you can, if you do it at the right time, and they actually have like a little ring that they give you once you get out of the tutorial area that helps you know when you've done it correctly. If you press A at the exact time when you're going to attack or the enemy's going to attack you, you can maximize the damage or you can lessen the damage also. So it's a neat little system that like keeps you active during the battles where you're not just pressing A. And then
I mean,
yeah.
it sounds like Mario RPG.
Yeah. It's based off, there's some Paper Mario RPG stuff in that too. And then also you have the skill system is not the skill system is different also because you have to actively move up your MP. You can't just know if you don't. So basically, usually one of your attacks is you're gonna take up your whole MP, one of your skills, and then you have to attack to then get your MP back. So it's another like system where you're not able to just spam the same move over and over. You have to constantly think about how much MP do I have? Do I need to use this to use a heal? Do I need to use it to use an attack? Do I go ahead and just use my strongest skill? And also the cool thing about some of the skills is that, like, let's say Valerie. So there's two main characters, Valerie and Zane is the boy with the golden hair, and then Valerie has like blue hair. Because they're the sun and the moon, whatever. I forgot what they call them. But either way, they each have like attacks that are based off of the sun and the moon. So hers, which I chose her as my main character, but it doesn't really matter. You can switch them back and forth if you want to play as Zane. You can play as Zane and then switch back to Valerie if you want. Either way, you're going to control all of them in battle, but it's basically who you move around and who your kind of mainish character is. And she has an attack that is like a boomerang. You can, once you release it, if you time it right, you can keep boomeranging it back and forth between you and the enemy, and then it goes into other enemies. So you can literally hit all the enemies at once if you're good at it. And once you figure out how to make it work, you can usually do it like 3 or 4 times before it goes nuts. And it's really hard to do. And then like Zane has like a fireball, like a spirit ball that you can basically do like a sort of spirit bomb thing with it, where you press a bunch of times and then you can maximize it out, and then it'll do the most damage that it possibly can. So I love the fact that there's like, and there's probably more systems that come on after where I'm at. So that I love the fact that there seems to be more things added onto it as you go along. And just from the opening part of the game, it's already fun. So I can imagine that it gets even more fun as things go on. I've already found that there's a little fishing mini game as well. So
yeah, I saw that in
yeah.
the trailer.
Just to answer your question, I don't know how to pronounce your Twitch handle, but we got a question here watching it. If you're watching live or listening later, how long is the game? If you play just like the main story, it's 20 hours. If you play anywhere the main to side story, it's about 27-ish hours. So it's not super long. But it is kind of like your typical RPG, around 25, 30 hours. So that's still a pretty meaty amount. It is like $35 if you decide to buy it, say on Switch or just on the console of choice, and you don't want to get it off PS Plus or Game Pass, or you don't have those for some reason. So it is a little bit of a hefty price for an indie game, but that's sort of like the premium indie game price right now. It's between $30 to $40. So, do with that what you will.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's totally worth it. And just as the little fish mini game is actually not easy per se. Like, it took me a little while to get used to it, but it felt like there was definitely, I don't know if there's a strength with that. Like, eventually you get, depending on your level, like depends on what kind of fish you can get, because I'm guessing besides the jellyfish and they call it the man-o-war or something, and the trout, if I try to get something bigger, there's no way that it would make it through the entire pond. It would eventually cut my line. And I tried like 3 or 4 or 5 different times, and it cut my line every single time. So I'm not sure if I come back later, it'll.
Well, you probably need like a better fishing rod or get some
maybe
something,
Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, like I'm gonna there's fun. The puzzles are really fun, as well. Like just the opening dungeon that I was in, there's various ways for you to go around. It encourages you to try to go get the chest that's over there, and you kind of have to figure out which route you need to go to get over there, and then go back. And you can easily, if you just go the main route, you can easily miss things. Like after I beat the first boss, if you go where he was, there's 2 chests there. But if you just go out the exit, you'll completely miss it and just go out the cavern. So
Right. Yeah.
I really like the way they did this. I'm hoping that the story isn't as much of a downer as looks like a lot of the reviews are saying it is. But I know the gameplay and stuff has been keeping me in it. And okay, so he's asking the question due to the fact that it is going to get a physical Switch release in 2024. Yeah, and I would agree with you there. If you're gonna go ahead and beat, now I don't know if for me, I've said this before on my end, but I get you because once it's on Switch, it usually will take a while for it to come down in price. If they are going to charge the full $40, which I'm sure they are, or even more because it's physical, if I go and play it on Xbox Game Pass or PC Game Pass or whatever for $1 or free, or even paying the $15 monthly or the $10 monthly, would I go and buy it on Switch later? Probably not, because there's not really a reason to go unless they add a new game plus later that maybe adds a lot of things. We don't know until we get there, right? Because if that Switch version is not coming until next year, they have a lot of time between now and that 2024 release to add things to the game.
Yeah.
And if the hype continues, and obviously right now is a really bad time for this game to come out because Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield is about to eat its lunch in about a week.
Yep.
Or in a couple of days, honestly, for Starfield, because a lot of people have bought the
Deluxe edition.
deluxe edition, which I forgot to put this in the doc, but it looks like it does not matter that Microsoft owns Bethesda. Bethesda is still doing Bethesda things when it comes to the review copies. They are still holding true to their thing about, we are not going to give you early review copies. You're getting review copies when everybody else gets them.
Because they're doing that for like the UK or like Europe, because Americans have early review copies.
No, but that's such a okay. I don't see why that matters. But but the funniest thing to me is the one that Eurogamer posted, which is like, oh, we're giving a code only to Digital Foundry, but not you guys. It's like, wait a minute, why? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But
right.
And thanks, Scott, for being in here and watching. He's saying that there's a trick to the fishing guinea game. You got to make sure you only reel in the highlighted area. If they start getting rowdy, stop reeling and wait to go back to the highlighted line. Okay, that makes sense. So
it's like every fishing mini game ever.
Yeah, I guess so. Also, Scott reviewed the game for Outer Haven. He gave it a 5 out of 5. It's actually on some of the review roundups if you go look for it on Twitter. Sadly, that Sabotage and Tinsley didn't put it on the poster or whatever, but hey, at least they're getting mentioned there with some of the other folks. So that's really cool for Scott and our friends over there at the Outer Haven as well. So yeah, man, I'm enjoying the heck out of Sea of Stars right now. Like I said, the combat is worth going and playing the game for because it's really fun. It keeps you in it all the time. I like the early conceit of the story. Let's see where that goes. I like the characters so far. I haven't gotten to see him again yet, but Garl, your cook friend, that's actually not like he's not a solstice warrior as Valerie and Zane are, but he's still like your comic relief fun friend, and I loved him at the beginning of the game. So we'll see once he comes back in, which he obviously does because he's in the demo. If he keeps being his jolly self, there's a really sweet part where you're in this tutorial, because the whole conceit of that is that it's almost like a Dragon Ball Z kind of thing, where like they have to train for years and years to become solstice warriors, right? To gain their powers, to gain their magic powers, and gain all of this. And so in all of these years of training, their friend cannot see them at all, right? But he's going to school on his own somewhere else in the town, but he still remembers them. Like, we don't know how many years this is later. And he makes it a point to like try to sneak in there to give them some cookies that he made, and he writes them a note, and it's really cute, and it's like, that's sweet. Like, I love that already, like, so I don't know how many more moments like that you're gonna get in the game, but I thought that was really sweet, and it's cool that they made an effort to give him some character there. And yeah, just like I was saying right before Scott had commented that, yes, this game is probably going to get eaten alive by Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, that happens when you release between, two big other RPGs. I mean, it happens like shooters like Titanfall 2 and stuff like that.
Yeah. Hopefully people will get the time to play it. Again, it's not as the one thing that is good is that it's a different RPG from those two games, right? So let's say you didn't.
It's like the traditional RPG, not
well, okay, but still, okay. We're talking about a JRPG compared to a Western RPG, whatever you want to term it. I'm saying that it's different in the aspect of, okay, let's say you didn't play Final Fantasy 16, it wasn't for you or whatever, and you played Octopath Traveler 2, and you're looking for something kind of more in that vein. This fits that bill, and it's different enough from and it's totally different from Baldur's Gate and Starfield, that if this is more your bag, you definitely have a game to play right now, and you can keep playing it. It's short compared to what those games are. Baldur's Gate is ridiculously long, especially because it encourages you to keep doing different things, not just following the main story. And Starfield is going to do the same thing. So yeah, if you want more of your, like you said, traditional old school RPG, you got that one. You can play it in your 30 hours, and then you can go and play the other games if you want, or you can try to play all three at once, whatever floats your boat. Even though I'm pretty sure that's hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the only game I've been playing this week. I played a little bit more WrestleQuest, but I said my piece on that game last week. You can go watch or listen last week to see what I thought about it.
You gave it to Stunner last week, so
yeah, definitely. Just like Randy Santos, you give it to Center. I gave it to Center. We're going on with that. So thank you for the joke there. I liked it. So yes, I agree with you, Scott. Learning how to figure out how to immerse yourself in all this time between Starfield, Baldur's Gate, and this is going to be fun for everybody.
Not for you, because you only care about one of those three games. So
well, I'm still going to play Starfield, at least because it's there. I don't know about investing in Baldur's Gate, because I'm kind of intrigued, but knowing that you have to like roll for everything is not
between the
bad.
two. Like you should be more into like Baldur's Gate 3, because it has a party system and more of a party system, better writing, less glitchy, and it has less. You don't like Western RPGs, and you don't really like shooters, so
I do like shooters. I don't like.
Yeah, but it's still all hidden dice rolls. It's not like Call of Duty 1-to-1 shooting, or anything.
Right,
so.
But it seems like every freaking side mission that they showed in that big 45-minute presentation of Starfield was, you're going to be shooting somebody. So
right, yeah.
I don't know. And then also, I haven't watched it, but apparently like 45 minutes of the opening leaked online.
Yeah, some guy
And
leaked it, and then he got his ass arrested. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean, so that's interesting that they're also doing that. They're kind of being weird about like who gets codes and all that stuff. It feels like they kind of don't want people to possibly dissuade someone from canceling their pre-order for the big bundle since
well,
that comes out in a couple of days.
I mean,
But
I joked about it a few weeks ago, but I said on Twitter, I was like, it'll be funny if all the reviews hit for Starfield and they're all like 6s or 6 or 7.
I really hope not. Like I don't think it would be good for gaming as a whole to have this big game that Microsoft is hoping changes everything for them becomes like another middling game, because that's just not. I think it's gonna hurt as far as like they're really hoping this is the one. This is the one that's gonna carry them for a while, and now it's gonna start their roll of titles aside from Forza.
It'll start their renaissance, just like the last 5 games they've promised to have.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, yeah. Aside from the small releases, right, that have been good, but
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know that I'm going to skip it. I'm not going to buy it as soon as it comes out because I'll still be playing Sea of Stars and then Starfield is there. I don't know. Like, I have to go look at whatever else is coming out between now and December and do the math as far as what I can afford and all those things. There's bills and car payments and everything else. And I don't want to go ask for a review code for something that, I may not have time to review either. So
I might
yeah.
be able to get a review code for that one. I have to ask my friend who worked on it.
See, as long as one of us is getting to check it out, I think that's good, at least for the show.
And I would have asked for a PC review code, but I know my PC can't run it.
So. Oh no, I would definitely say your PC is probably not going to be able to run it. But yeah, and actually interesting that Scott says that he's restarted Baldur's Gate like 5 times because he started playing by himself and then he played with friends and then he played with his wife and then
right, yeah,
yes.
So, I mean, it's just like their other, like, Divinity Original Sin is like that too. So it just seems like a more AAA version of that thing, which
right.
is fine. I like that
and
game
since
too.
we're already on this subject, I guess just to go ahead into the news, Xbox finally figured out how to resolve the problem with Baldur's Gate not showing up on their system.
Yeah, it's called cutting a mode.
Yeah, it's called. Maybe you would. Let's be honest. If Baldur's Gate 3 came out and was just a game and wasn't getting a 97 on Metacritic, as was pointed out here, and is getting a ton of hype, they wouldn't be changing their minds about letting stuff go in order to have that game release. But because it is, they have now decided that they're going to kill the split screen on Series S.
That makes me think that, like, I don't think it'll be bad, but that gives slightly more evidence to me thinking that Starfield might not be like the game of the year or the top 10 or 10 out of 10 game or anything like that. Like, it'll be like 8 or 9s, not the 10s they want.
No,
if it was the 10s they'd want, they'd just say fuck it, and you can only play Starfield here and on PC.
No, I don't think that has much to do with it because we've seen that Series S has a problem with split screen, right?
Yeah.
Halo couldn't. The whole reason they dropped Halo is because Series S couldn't do split screen either. At that time, apparently they weren't ready to drop the parity clause or whatever that apparently, like Scott said, Phil Spencer didn't even know was a requirement.
There have been other there have been other rules that Xbox has always had that they eventually get rid of, or remember like the 360, the arcade games were only supposed to be like 50 megabytes,
right?
And then Castlevania Symphony of the Night was like, no, we need more, and then they're like, all right, well, we're gonna up it to 250 then, and then go from there.
Yeah, and he also it's also been pointed out the split screen's been dropping Forza as well. Yeah, well, of course, if it's not gonna If it's not going to run, if it's going to make it to where you can't release the game on the system, here's the thing, right? They need that game to release on the Series S because that's their highest selling console. They can't not have it released on Series S.
Don't you think? I mean, yeah, but don't you think that's kind of painted them in a corner?
What what's great about this week is that we will have various. Why don't we just talk about it? Why don't I just put everything in one and then we can just talk about all this? So Phil Spencer, apparently, I don't know if he is talking about himself or he's talking about a trend that he's seeing, but we've seen it with Nintendo as well, that the console prices are not going to go down this generation. The Switch is almost 7 years old, has not got down in price at all. That never happened before until this generation, because the components that go in your systems cost too much money. They can't afford to eat more of those hardware costs to bring the price down. Also, because technology is evolving so much faster now that people are just not making those chips anymore.
They literally made $100 lighter Switch, the Switch Lite.
Yes, but it's not the same thing as the main Switch, the one that goes into your TV.
Sure.
Being cheaper, right? And they even made a more expensive OLED for $50 more. So that's what's interesting is, and the PS5 is doing a price cut in the UK right now, but that's because that's where the price was already $100 more, so, or $50 more, whatever. So it's really not that much of a price cut that they're doing. They're just making it seem like it's a big deal, but it's not. And we have seen the Series S, I think, in a bundle go down, but that's also the Series S. They can do that. That's the whole reason why he said we needed to have a $300 console, because we knew that the consoles are not going to drop in price that much.
If it's hamstringing developers, I mean, say what you want about. I mean, I think the PS5 digital only thing is really dumb, but it's still the same console as the PS5, disc one. Like the Xbox Series S is such a downgrade, unintentionally or intentionally, so that it's now screwing up, Forza, Baldur's Gate, stuff like that.
Right. I think that, like we've seen with both of these games, Microsoft just has to be, and Phil, look, let's be honest. I've said this many times. It's not like Phil Spencer doesn't talk out of both sides of his mouth, or he says one thing and then quickly will change his tune when it suits him. He did that here. There was a parody clause.
Yeah.
He just wanted to act like he didn't know that there was one, so that now he can say that there's not one. But at least they're doing it, right? At least they're saying, look, we got to have the game run on this system because it's the system that most people that are in our ecosystem own. So if we got to drop various modes, then we got to drop them. Whereas when Baldur's Gate was in development and when Forza was in development, earlier, apparently that wasn't a thing that they were willing to do. Now that it's like, oh, this game is not going to come out at all on your system. Oh, okay, we'll drop it then.
Yeah.
More developers are going to have to start strong arming them and telling them, look, it's not going to come out on that system at all if you don't drop this mode or that mode or do something, right? The compromise for Baldur's Gate. Now, I don't know if there's a compromise for Forza at all because it's a Microsoft first-party game. But for Baldur's Gate, the compromise is that you'll be able to do cross-save and cross-progression with the Steam version, which that never happens. So, or if it does, it's like a game that they already have on PC Game Pass or whatever.
I was going to say it happens. It's just kind of rare. Or,
but it's a third-party game. It's not a Microsoft game, right? It's like they're allowing this because they need people to buy it on this system, and it's also coming out. Hopefully before the end of the year, when people have already made the choice to buy it on PlayStation. So
I imagine the PS5 version is out in like a few weeks. I think
it comes out the same day as Starfield. Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine the Xbox One is behind, but they already had that build, 95% done already.
Right.
They're just waiting for them to finally go, fuck it, take it out. So
I would say like November maybe.
I'd say earlier. I'd say probably maybe October.
You think so?
Yeah.
We'll see, I guess. But Scott's like, it'd be hilarious if it comes out the same week as Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man, right? So who's going to be buying that when they already bought it on the other system and then they can play one of those games? So I was going to ask you this question of, does it make sense then that you need to have, could we see, well, I mean, obviously PlayStation's the market leader, so they don't necessarily have to do that. But I can also see why Microsoft didn't do what Sony did, because they already did that once and it bit them in the ass, right? With the number of the Xbox One sad, right?
Yeah.
So they chose not to do that. They chose to do that, but we're going to make it cheaper, and it's going to be more in line with sort of what the Series X can do, and not, I guess, what PlayStation decided to do, which was just knock $100 off and make a digital version.
Right.
Somebody brings up the issue of like, well, whenever GTA 6 comes out, I don't know if we'll be at the end of this generation cycle when GTA 6 comes out, so I don't think that it will matter so much.
I don't think so.
You think so?
No, I said I don't think so. I think GTA 6 will probably come out, if not next year. I mean, probably pretty early in 2025.
Okay.
But I would say next year probably.
I'd say 2025 is more of the. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a problem the more that games get bigger and you really do start leaving the PS4 and Xbox One behind, which we're already starting to see, right? It's very small, the number of games that are still coming out, and it's mostly like, sports titles and games that were already really well in development.
Yeah, or like games that aren't pushing their full weight, like Persona 3 Reloaded or whatever the fuck that thing's called,
Yeah.
Or like the new Yakuza game. It's like, that'll run in anything. So
well, it's built on that same
right, yeah, that's why.
From Like a Dragon, so yeah. Do you think that this will change, like, going forward, as far as like when they think about the next gen after this gen, if they do release a console still? Do you think they still try to do the 2 console thing, or they go back to just one?
I think they'll try to do 2, but I think it'll be the same kind of problem of one will be drastically less powerful than the other, and it'll be a bottleneck for some developers. I mean, it'll obviously be good for a few years, but that's just like how the Series S was. It was fine for 3 years, but now now developers are really hitting those rocks where they can't get some modes working correctly.
Yeah, I think it matters a lot of the Switch was able to get past some of this because it was such a seller that people figured out how to make it work, right? Or they just said straight up, look, we can't make your game on your system. And Nintendo was like,
the Switch
all right.
The Switch has a lot more compromises. Like you can get Control or Resident Evil 4 or 2 or I think it's Resident Evil 7.
The Resident
one
Evil,
of those. Like those streaming games. It's like that's not an ideal way to play that game at all, but it technically works. Or
they could do that too on there, but they don't want to because they want it to be a feature of Game Pass. So you can play it on cloud if you want to, but they still want you to be able to play it on the system.
Or you have games like, Doom Eternal. Like, that's a very surprising port that technically works, but
Yeah.
you got a lot of smart people at id who made it work.
Or Witcher 3 or
Yeah,
yeah.
and they're able to downgrade the game enough to make it work. I mean, no offense, but you're not going
No,
to confuse the
people
Witcher
know
3
that.
this Witcher 3 on
Yeah.
Switch with PS5 or PS4.
Yeah, people know that if you're buying it on Switch, I mean most
Yeah.
people.
So I
But
think
that
I think their idea of wanting parity, that's a noble goal, but that's not realistic when it comes to technical limitations.
yeah, and the thing is too, it's like there's certain technical limitations that they can do, right? Okay, the game can run 60 frames. It just has to run. It can't run 4K, but it can run 1080p or whatever, or it can run 4K, but it has to dip the frame rate. Like they could do things like that, which will provide parity. But as they've already decided for this, you're going to have to just make the decision of there's certain things that you can't do the parity with. Now, if the game can't run at all, I don't know about that. And that's where I agree with the developers in that. Well, now we have to kind of spec for almost like a PC. We have to spec for like the lowest common denominator. So this can't be as great on the Series X as it could be because we're having to make sure it also works on the Series S. So and apparently at Gamescom, like off the record, everybody is taking a shit on the system.
Yeah, people were pissed with the Series S.
That sucks for Microsoft as far as like people don't want to have to be doing that. It's already hard enough to make games for 3 or 4 different systems. Then you add one in your own ecosystem that people have to make things for. It's not great.
Right.
But I did want to bring up his thing about we wanted to make sure we had a $300 system, right? At the time, the Switch is also $300. It still is $300. The regular one is $350 for the OLED, whatever. The new one is supposedly going to be $400. And even then, they're still taking steps to make sure it can be $400 and that they're not doing an OLED, they're doing an LCD with that one and whatever. Does that have a purpose? Like, do you feel like we should be still thinking about that? That we should try to get the console to be the lowest price possible? Or do people just kind of need to get in their head that $500 to $600 is the new normal?
I think they have to get it in their head that it's a new normal, considering everything else has gone up in price. Like, I mean, $500 for the PS5 when you compare it to some past game or past console prices isn't even that crazy. Look at the fucking Neo Geo MVS or whatever. I think it was the MVS. That was the home console one. That was $700 when that thing launched. It's like, good luck with that. That was like 1994.
Right.
So, and I mean, you're not going to have a console like it's like, oh, this is a $2,000 console. It's like, well, for that price, I can just buy a fucking PC and run everything on it.
Yeah, Scott brings up that at least it wasn't $600 like the PS3.
Yeah.
So,
and at least the PS5. I don't know about yours, but like, it's not overheating like crazy, and it's not.
Yeah, I didn't have any other problems that people were saying that Final Fantasy 16 was making their PS5 overheat and whatever. I've never had one problem with that game at all.
Right.
And I also agree with you, Scott. I will also not forgive Square for putting Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 as cloud ports instead of making them work on the system. I understand 3, but 1 and 2 should have been playable on that system. That's ridiculous to me. But we do. He does. Not Scott, but our other Twitch commenter here is bringing up the thing that happened with Redfall, right, where they show a game running on PC and then say it's running on the system, and then it's not running on the system when you actually buy the game, so it runs worse which
Yeah.
that's a known.
That's
It's a
always
known
deceptive.
thing,
That's always deceptive advertising, though, where they have like, oh, this was captured from a PC,
right?
the smallest text imaginable on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, but it's understandable they do that because, right? Again, most people have the Series S, so you can't tell them it runs at this, and then they buy it on the Series S and it doesn't run at that. So they kind of have to play a little bit with that, unfortunately. But I kind of agree with you in a way in that people kind of have to. I understand the Switch because of its technical limitations, right? What's the point of charging $450 if it's still something that's at most running PS4 and Xbox One games?
Right.
So why not try to make it as cheap as possible when you can do that? But when you're trying to say that you are next gen and you're putting a system out that is technically less next gen, but is going to be a problematic when you truly get into next gen, that is not next gen at that point. And that's where Microsoft needs to understand that, like, yo, you're the loser. We get it. You need to find a way to get people to buy your system, buy into your ecosystem, buy into your what you're selling. But hopefully by then they will have gotten the numbers out of Game Pass that they want, or whatever it is that they're, whether they're selling the little dongle or they're putting all the apps on your TV or whatever that gets people to buy into Xbox and they don't have a console. Maybe by then they're just, hey, here's our one console. You want to buy it? Cool. It's $500 or $600 or whatever the hell. And if you don't, we have all these other options that don't include making a system that is going to, hurt your games later on.
Play Forza and have it look like it's running through an Atari 2600.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but sure. It's not that bad.
That'll be the native TV app for the Xbox Game Pass. Be like, if you just want to run this Xbox game on a Samsung smart TV, it's going to look like a SNES game. Have fun.
Yes. That's exactly what's going to happen. So, Microsoft was also in the news because they finally did it. They made the concession that the CMA has been wanting for a long time.
Yeah.
In this lucrative cloud gaming scenario that they didn't want to give up at first, that they held up with CMA for, let's see if this actually is what happens, what gets it passed, because the CMA said that they are officially blocking the original deal. Now, this hasn't gone through to the CAT or whatever, and they're obviously avoiding it going through to the tribunal because that'll delay it past the October 18th deadline. This is also that they don't get past that October 18th deadline, then they have to do another extension, or they possibly have to pay the $3 billion to Activision or whatever. So the whole terms of this is that Ubisoft is going to have global rights to Activision-Blizzard, or I don't know if it's just Activision, cloud games, except for in the EU area because they met the demands of the EU. And Ubisoft decides which games will show up on Game Pass Cloud and which games don't. Microsoft now will have no bearing on what gets put on the cloud, even in the United States, by the way. So it's funny that they went through this whole process of, oh, we don't want to give up cloud. Cloud is important, but it's actually not that important. We're trying to prove to you that it's not that important. And I think this finally proves that it's not that important because they just gave it to Ubisoft at a 15-year deal. Do you think that now, finally, they can put this to bed?
I mean, yeah, probably. At least until like 8 years on the road when Microsoft says we're going to They're gonna buy Ubisoft.
That'll be interesting. I don't know how Tencent's going to feel about giving up their 10% or whatever it is that they own
It'd
in
probably be fine.
Ubisoft.
I mean, like I said, just pay them off. You know, they don't care.
But yeah, I could totally see that happening where it's just like, hey, Ubisoft, how about we just buy you? Like,
but yeah, I mean, I guess it's good they finally found a solution. You have to wonder, like, how many other companies did they try to go through? Like, did they try EA or did they try, whoever else left?
yeah.
THQ.
THQ. Yeah, definitely not Embracer Group because who knows how long they're gonna be hanging on there. And there really wasn't that many options, like you said, right? EA or
Sega.
Ubisoft is probably Sega. I wonder if they did offer it to EA because they already have the EA Play thing. I wonder if there's something in this for Microsoft though, aside from that. Like, does Ubisoft Plus wind up becoming part of Game Pass at some point?
I assume so.
I just wonder if there is something here.
I assume so because no one cares about Ubisoft Plus.
Well, I think a lot of people just don't even know that you can get the games day one. But see, the thing is, like, Ubisoft Plus is like for the absolute, maybe like you, hardcore Ubisoft fan that winds up playing all their games. But most people are not that. So, like, they like Assassin's Creed or they like Far Cry or they, Rainbow Six or something, but they're not going to buy a whole subscription, which is technically overpriced for what it is, just for that. So, right. I wonder if that's part of this, is that at some point Ubisoft Plus will become part of Game Pass, much like EA Play is, and then it won't matter because eventually it will come anyway as part of the deal. So they could do that, right? After this gets passed, they could do something like that. So we'll see if perhaps once everybody passes this, or I guess UK, and then I don't know what's going to happen with the FTC now. What's going to end up,
I think it'll pass, and everyone else is pretty much giving it the okay. So,
yeah. Apparently, also, I forgot to mention this, that the EU is also now perhaps wanting to backtrack because Ubisoft is now involved. They're worried about Ubisoft getting to charge whatever they want. So I don't know. This is such a interesting thing, but that's the thing, is that the EU wasn't involved in this, so Microsoft would then just be charging the Game Pass price. So I don't know. The CMA is gonna have to look at it again from the beginning. So they're hoping that it passes before that October 18th deadline, but it may not. And then we'll have to go through all this all over again. Who knows? Like Scott brought up, that now because of that Game Pass core thing, much like PlayStation did with ending PS Now, where they get to inflate the PS Plus numbers, now Xbox will be able to inflate the Xbox Game Pass numbers. And I don't know if that's going to help them at some point or another be able to say, look at how many users we have. Let's do more with this, or be able to do the thing where they don't have a second console because they feel like they have enough Game Pass users, whatever that is. We'll have to see what all this comes down to, but obviously they won't have as many if they don't get to have this Activision-Blizzard deal passed, because they're trying to do everything they can to get this to work. Let's see if that ends up backfiring on them, or this finally is the thing that makes it all work at the end. We did bring up the story last week about the Xbox 360 store going down in a year from now, basically. And Phil Spencer did comment about that. He said he'd love to figure out a way to get those 220 games to be able to be playable still.
I'm sure they're plenty playable. It's just they don't have the rights to run it, or you guys shut down your backward emulation
No, they
Division
didn't. They opened it again, remember?
Oh.
But he did bring that up. He said, how many of these are on PC? It doesn't mean that you have to be able to play them on Xbox. I know a lot of people want to be able to play them on their Xbox, but do you think that they'll really try to make this work? Do you think that they could do something like maybe give people Steam codes or
Then give them Steam codes.
yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
Or like some kind of PC code.
No,
Or
I don't think they care. Because it's such a long time. I think the correct thing, what they should honestly do, is basically build a Xbox 360 emulator for PC and pull in your profile and then run whatever you want and then paywall it. So I can only use the emulator when you're subscribed to Game Pass or whatever. But have it be.
You still have to probably relicense all those games though for that.
Not necessarily. If they were native PC apps, sure. But if it was literally like a virtual Xbox 360 environment, probably not.
Yeah, I don't know if they would go that far. Like I see,
no, of course not.
I see this more as lip service by Phil Spencer. I don't think that they're really.
Or it'll be like, we got Bastion working on the current console. Here you go.
Yeah, could I see them possibly reaching out to some of these companies or indie developers or whatever and saying, "Hey, what do we got to do to get the game to work on
right
Xbox One, Series S? Is it?" And they go through the motions, and if it's worth it, then.
But stuff like Darkstalkers Resurrection, like that's a great game, but they don't care.
Capcom could also get that re-release it, couldn't they? Or didn't they release it as part of that collection or whatever?
They released Darkstalkers, but Resurrection was like the Iron Galaxy ported version where they actually they did some work to it. So they probably had to relicense with them, which I'm sure actually wouldn't be like that big of a deal. But it's more about, does Capcom even care?
Yeah, but sometimes you have to wonder if they do with some of those older fighting series that isn't Street Fighter and
right.
How would someone play Guitar Hero and Microsoft X Plus not be responsible for paying the artist royalties? I don't think Guitar Hero I don't think is part of that. The ones that doesn't work. This is like the digital store, so technically.
Well, it's more like how will you be able to buy new songs? And it's like, hey, you won't,
you won't.
It'll have whatever you have in the disc, and it's like you better hope you like those songs, because or you get a hack 360 and then you can put in whatever you want.
If only Microsoft could convince Bandai Namco to get their games from Xbox 360 era to give it backwards compatibility. I agree. Yes. Some really great 360 titles, especially that are missing there, that should be working backwards compatibility. But yeah, that's why we saw, at least with Rock Band. Now, Guitar Hero, that's a whole different thing because those games were made in a different era. And until they try to make that new game that they made, they try to make it like a streaming service.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. Right. And let's be honest, Rock Band is only around right now because Epic bought them. Because they were probably going to start not providing DLC anymore for Rock Band 4 if Epic didn't start bankrolling that. So
I'm honestly surprised they're still doing it. So
no, because Harmonix is providing music for other things. Like that's probably part of the deal, right? Like Harmonix said, okay, if you keep funding Rock Band 4 to where that can still be a thing and people can still play it and there's still DLC, then we will do all this other stuff. And then they both, there's money exchange for the Rock Band people. And because let's be honest, Harmonix, what else do they really have at this point?
They had that card game that no one cared about.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, honestly, but it's just like
They had
Yeah.
they had that shooter that no one cared about, and they killed off before it got released.
Yeah. Oof. I love the Fantasia game on the Kinect, but that sadly the Kinect is dead. So and Dance Central was great too, but again the Kinect is dead. So yeah, the backwards compatibility thing is always funny. We'll talk about that also when we talk about the PlayStation Portal. I guess we should go ahead and get in that now. The PlayStation last week I was calling it the Project Q. Still, it has a name now. It's called the PlayStation Portal, and it's $200. And they make sure that you know 3 different times in this PlayStation blog that it is remote play only. Again, I'm going to say this: remote play only. You cannot stream games from PS Plus onto that thing. You cannot cloud play anything. It is remote play only. So you have to own a PS5 in order for this thing to work.
So you got your pre-order in, right?
No, because it is $100 too expensive. Now for sure, if they would have told me that I could cloud stream games that are on PS Plus, I would possibly think about it. But nah, man, why the hell am I gonna freaking look? Listen, the people that have reviewing this thing, like Greg Miller, that actually has a point because he remote plays all the time. Go for it, dude. Go for it. That's the only purpose of this, and they bring this up in the blog. If you have somebody or kids or whatever that takes up the only TV you have in the house, or you don't want to be away from everybody playing video games all the time, which because hey, you got families, people don't want you stuck in a room all day. Let's be realistic. They want you to be around everyone. So you remote play, right? Okay, cool. That's a cool purpose. I still think that just for that, it's still $100 too expensive. Because you're making people have to own the proprietary big console that already costs $550, and then they got to buy this. So, I mean, I guess they don't have to. They can just buy the backbone and play it on their phone. But this is for the people that just have money to waste, honestly. And I feel like they really could have tried to do something with it.
Yeah, but it would have upped the price.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Like, you want it to be able to stream games, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. But that they literally have to like build it to be like a little like the Steam Deck or something.
Yeah, but and thank you for the joke. I like that. Saying it 3 times only aggravates the hackers who will figure out how to solder a Raspberry Pi or whatever onto it.
Yeah.
How long do you think it's going to take before this gets hacked? Can this be hacked? Like, because the game has to be installed on your console, so you can't just. You have to trick the console into thinking that you installed the game on there in order to play it. So,
I mean, the PS5 has already been hacked a little. So this could just be like another vector to get into it, I guess. Assuming you're on the right firmware. But I imagine that this will require like later firmware than what is available.
Right.
But it could happen. I see this thing as being more hackable than the actual PS5. But again, it's not like, oh, it's a little mini PS5 and a chip, or no, because it's literally just a network device with a screen attached to it and some an ugly controller bolted on.
Yeah. But like for me, if you're going to make it a point that you are now investing in cloud, right? And you're going to say that cloud is a big thing for us and whatever. Like I don't understand if you're going to charge the $200. So you're charging $100 because of the controllers and then $100 for the screen. Like,
well,
why not go ahead and add the cloud stuff to it? Unless you're trying to make this the least hackable thing possible, and that's what you're trying to do here, is make it to where people can't hack this to do something else with it.
Again, though, like if they added cloud support, like it might be the cost of a Switch then. It might add on $100. It's like, well, people aren't going to do that,
Yeah. Scott's saying that, once they hack it, they'll be able to put Android OS on it, which it already has a version of Android OS on it, but it's not the one that can obviously get Game Pass and PlayStation Plus streaming to work on it.
I mean, that's the same thing as a Switch. Like, it has, a really ghetto version of Android on it that, it's like to actually get to Android, you have to, jump the controller pins, which, so I'm sure this thing will be hacked, not immediately, but enough people will probably get it and screw around with it, and MVG will release a video going like, if you attach this wire to it, then you can boot into Android's recovery mode. And
yeah, I liked. Can I watch Netflix on it? I think not. I think that's the point. Is that there's no. Actually, that's installed on your console. So
yeah,
could you watch Netflix?
Why not?
On it? Yeah, I guess you could, right? I guess you could. Yeah, as long as it's the app that's installed on your console and not.
Like, I mean, you're poo-pooing this thing or you're naysaying it, but like, you live in a house with multiple other people.
I can already do that on my phone.
Yeah, but your phone isn't an ideal thing.
No, it's not.
Because you don't have the fucking controller.
But I can I can use the controller though. Like I do with my Xbox all the time. I have the phone hooked into the thing that holds my controller, and I literally just play it sitting there. It's like it's easy as hell. It's now on the phone, it's my phone itself cannot even use the PS4 controller. It's not I think you have to have Android 10 in order to use the PS4 controller. So I have to use my hands or whatever.
Yeah.
Which that I agree. I can't play anything but an RPG on it with that. But I don't really again, I think it does have that use case, but it's just I still feel like they could have, if they were really going to only make this remote play.
I mean, who knows? They could release an update that lets you do cloud play down the road.
They could, yeah. Once they actually like really do this,
Or they release like a new version of this thing that has, this has a small CPU in it that can help facilitate cloud gaming or whatever.
Yeah. Or this becomes like the PS TV and it gets discounted very quickly, and then it will be the $100 that I keep saying it should be.
Right. I mean, hell, I got my PS TV for like 20.
Yep, that's how I got it too. I got it for $20, and then by then
you still have it?
No, I don't have it because I was gonna get a I don't remember what happened. I wound up like losing it somehow. So
because it's funny because those things, I think they started at 200, I think, or maybe 100. They got blown down to 20, and now they're like collector's items again, or not people want them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean technically it is a PSP, right? The PlayStation Portal. So
yeah, like there's one on eBay, or the eBay prices are like $135.
Yeah.
And it's like what?
But yep. So I mean, we'll see how well this does. I'm assuming that this is totally like Scott said. This is a companion to the PS5. I'm assuming that they're not expecting people to just go out in droves and buy this. But I do wonder if they wind up discounting it. Yeah.
Just like the PSVR 2.
Well, PSVR 2 is totally, which the PSVR 2 does not work on this, by the way. So, just in case anyone was wondering. So we were talking about hacking things. A console that does have a problem with getting emulated a lot is the Switch. So Nintendo's been on this for what seems like since the Switch started its life, has been on this tirade of trying to destroy everything and anything that could possibly help emulation continue for this system, especially because now there's a thing that basically unlocks the other people's keys called lockpick. So you can make Switch games work on an emulator. You go buy somebody's somebody else's key off the internet. You download it, and then it makes it to where you can use your own games actually that you already own, create backups, and then play them on your PC through an emulator. So Nintendo said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go hire Denuvo to be middleware, and it's going to actively block you from being able to emulate a game. I don't know if this is going to be backwards compatible, where any dev that wants to use it can then use it on a game that's already been released, or if it's going to be for games going forward. But it is a tool that developers can now use to prevent piracy. How well, and also this has also allowed Nintendo to continue to keep taking down Android emulators and all that stuff for the Switch, because they're also using lockpick and whatever other things.
Right.
So, do you think that this solves their problem?
No, because Denuvo can get cracked too.
How long do you think it's going to take for?
There are Denuvo games cracked within like 45 days, or even up to like 1 week. Depends on how many people are hitting their head against it. But I think the use case against, like, how many people are really emulating Switch games?
Well, yeah. The thing is, like, that's the problem, right? Is that the people on Twitter and Threads and social media are just loud voices, but they have to see numbers. They have to see something that is leading them to believe that there are enough people emulating things in order for them to come in here and stop this. Now, the thing is, I think what really grinds their gears is the creating backups of games you already own thing.
Right.
And this is what they want to stop. They don't want people emulating games they already own, because then it puts those games out there, more copies of those games out there for other people that don't own the games to then emulate them as well. So I remember, look, they destroyed Gary Bowser's life, okay, to make it to where you couldn't emulate older games. So what do you think they're going to do for games that can still be bought on a system right now? So, like,
yeah,
there has to be numbers that they're seeing. There has to be enough of a problem for them to be like, yo, we're just going to, like Scott said, we're just going to try to shut down the entire emulation scene, so this is never a problem again. I don't know if that's possible, but
no, it's not at all. I mean, they can try to. It'll just force people to go deeper underground, but the information will still be out there in an easily shareable Google Doc or whatever, or whatever GitHub repository. And
do you think that this hurts Nintendo at all to constantly be going and doing things like this? Does this hurt their image at all, or just?
I mean, yeah, but they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, like, we brought this up many times. Like, even Nintendo itself doesn't do it. Doesn't, because it constantly tries to nickel and dime you. They didn't do the virtual console this generation. To their credit, the Switch online thing, you don't really hear about games being removed from that thing.
I mean, but I mean, it's all a matter of, because most of the games on that thing are Nintendo owned, or
right. They're not going to come up. It's like Microsoft removing their, other than Forza that has licensed tracks, removing their own stuff. But
or they're, the games are like partner games, but they're good partners, or they're still around. So
right. Yeah, I think it does hurt them, like in the image of, I guess, hardcore fans or people that are trying to preserve video games, because really there's, in some ways, like we're seeing with these 220 games that, are not going to be on the 360 store, and that who knows how many games on the PS3 and PSP and PS Vita store, and how many Nintendo 3DS and Wii eShop games that are no longer in existence. The only way to play those is through emulation, right? So emulation has a purpose.
Emulation or like really straight piracy.
Right, literally. But like that's the thing that even when they go in and put these old games on there, what are they doing? Right, they're using an emulator.
Right.
So trying to remove all of this stuff from being able to be online is a detriment, and it's going to get to the point where you remove all the stuff that people are not going to be able to just easily access it, I guess. But you are then removing these games that are not playable right now, as we keep bringing up. Only 13% of games are playable on modern consoles.
Yeah.
So what does that say? You keep doing stuff like this, you won't be able to play anything close to that 87% of games that are not playable. So it's like, man, I don't know if this is ever going to become a thing for gaming where we care about preservation at all.
No, because all the companies are against it. So the ESA is also, because the ESA doesn't actually lobby for consumers; it lobbies for the game companies.
Yeah, exactly. They don't. That's the thing that they don't care. Nintendo for every time that they do hurt themselves, something else comes along that absolutely just wipes it off the floor. So, they have the bad backlash for Pokemon, but then the Mario movie comes out, and who gives a fuck, right? Legend of Zelda comes out, who cares, right? About any of the negative stuff that comes out for them, because we got a new Zelda to play, we got a whole new Mario movie to play, or Mario movie to watch that Barbie just beat the record for amazingly. So it doesn't. It's like Nintendo. I don't know whatever else they have to do to hurt their image at all. They'll find something to make people forget about that. So it doesn't matter. This stuff sucks, I guess, for people that are trying to emulate the right way, but for those that are just doing it to pirate, I guess it stops them from doing that, which that's positive in a way.
I mean, I don't really think that there's a right way to emulate. I mean, it's like it.
Well, if you're creating backups if you're creating a copy of a game that you already own, just in case something happens to that game, then yes. If you're doing that so you can go trade it into GameStop, then no.
I mean,
right? Like,
when have you ever like backed something up or felt the need to? Like,
I don't know. I could see it with the discs, right? Because the discs have a tendency of getting the system itself will.
There's disc rot, or discs are semi-fragile things, but not the
carts.
Switch SD card or whatever the fuck it is. Like, unless you lose it, and then it's like, well, that's your own fault.
Right.
It didn't break.
It's very rare that a cart itself would just not work.
Right.
It's usually the system that stops
unless it's like
working.
Yeah, unless it's like submerged in water for the past week or something.
Yeah.
So
that's
I mean,
the
I
thing
don't
about those. So durable.
I think there is a somewhat of a case for like, oh, now I can play Tears of the Kingdom on PC, running at 60 frames per second in 4K or 1080p or whatever. But it's like, that's obviously not what Nintendo wants you to do.
Yeah, they're not making PC versions of these games for a reason. So,
right.
That's the thing. Just really quick, because I'm running out of time here. There's this indie No Mercy spiritual successor called Ultra Pro Wrestling that's being made. It was originally supposed to be part of this like Scottish pro wrestling company, but they backed out. But because they've been working on this for like 2 years, they said, screw it, we'll just do Fire Pro and make fictional characters. And then they added a bunch of real wrestlers as DLC. And it's actually cool because some of them have passed away, like Dynamite Kid. I think Buff Bagwell pass as well.
A while ago.
So, and I mean, I guess technically, unfortunately, rest in peace, Ray Wyatt and Terry Funk as
I
well.
know,
They
but
passed away
Bagwell's
this
still
week.
around, actually.
So that's Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff is another one that has passed for sure. That's a free agent wrestler, right? And they're going to be in this game, and you can buy them as DLC, and the money goes to them or their families directly, which is actually kind of cool. You don't see that very often, so that's cool.
Good.
Most of these are 80s or 90s wrestlers from back in the day. Sandman, Tito Santana, Jake the Snake, Gangrel. He's still wrestling technically. Blue Meanie, Al Snow, whatever. It's a big list. You can go find it. I don't, they're also trying to get people that are, I guess, free agents now that, or I guess possibly indie wrestlers that want to be on this.
Sure.
They would make them on here as well. So
yeah, why not? Because it's probably like a small cost to them, but if someone really wants to play as, whoever, go for it.
And it looks fun. I mean, again, No Mercy was one of the best wrestling games ever made. So if you're really making the game like this, then why not? Go for it.
Yeah.
I just thought that was cool that they are identically trying to directly pay the families of the wrestlers. So, that's the and just to bring up to the old point, he brings up what about the Saturn? Isn't it hard to emulate because there's a lot of the consoles don't exist to play the games on?
No, the Saturn's hard to emulate because the architecture's so fucked up. But there actually is a decent enough emulator out there for the Saturn called SSE, I think, or something weird like that. I mean, it ain't perfect, but I mean, N64 emulation isn't even perfect most of the time. So you take what you can get.
Yeah, and Scott brings up too that if they had the virtual console like they have on the other two, and they were actually able to make them where you bought the game one time and they kept working with the next system that you have from Nintendo, people would have bought more games, right?
Yeah.
But when you had a DS, a 3DS, a Wii, a Wii U, that you had to buy the games multiple times, that eventually made it to where, why the hell am I going to keep doing this?
Well, that's why it's funny when Nintendo's talking about their new console and they're like, we're thinking about finally adding like an account system for the console or for the consumer, so your games might transfer over. It's like, wow, what a lofty goal.
Yeah, I know, right? Like something that people have figured out a long time ago. Like we're just now. I mean, they're so behind on the tech side of things. It's hilarious that they keep. But that's what happens when you're like Disney for video games and you make such memorable games. You have such memorable IP that people love that they will just forsake everything else.
Yeah.
To have the newest version of that. What did you think of the Gamescom Opening Night Live thing? Any thoughts?
I thought it was fine. I guess I didn't watch it all or fully, but I skipped around a lot. Seemed okay. I'm excited for that new Mud Runner game. So is Jens. I was happy that Grand Blue game finally got a release date that they may actually hit. Yeah.
February 1st, 2024.
Yeah, I pre-ordered the expensive copy, but we'll see if it actually hits.
I feel like you've had that pre-order for like 5 years now.
No, because they haven't let you pre-order it. I mean, now they actually have started to. So,
but I feel like every year we do one of those like most anticipated games or whatever, and I feel like for like 3 years.
No,
you had it on there. Yeah,
it's since 2017 because that's like when I saw the first trailer, and I was like, "Hey, this looks neat."
Ridiculous. Yeah,
and then it only took them 6 more years.
Exactly. That's insane to me.
Some other stuff. That one game. Oh, what is it? Not Black Desert, but
Crimson Desert or something.
Yeah. I thought that was hilarious because Jens was like, This was looking cool up until all that Assassin's Creed shit started happening.
That's
Uh,
great.
Right.
I thought it was great, or not great. I thought it was fine if you could skip around, right?
Yeah.
To the stuff that you don't care about. If you're watching it live like Randy was, I can totally see why you feel like you wasted 2 hours of your life. Because you're watching a lot of gameplay for games that you don't care about, right? And this is the gameplay show. This is not the announcement show.
Right.
And he did make that a point. He
I mean,
said this is not going to be the announcement show.
They had a few announcements, but yeah, it was nothing like, oh, this is a new Final Fantasy. It's like, this is some weird looking game from Quantic Dream.
Yeah.
People driving cars.
I did like that Alien Hominid is getting an HD remaster or whatever. That I love that game back in the day. There's a new Star Wars game.
Yeah,
or not new. It's like getting a remaster as well. Kind of like
Dark Forces.
Yeah,
and they're remastering Turok 3, and it's like, one of those is good,
Yeah,
and the other one's Turok 3.
Yes.
Speaking of old games like Alien Hominid, I'll mention this real quick because I forgot to. Me and Jens tried to play Castle Crashers HD.
Oh, I love that game back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such shit. The online is busted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That follows the trend of many 360 games.
PS3 games that
yeah
don't work on modern consoles, apparently. Like Scott Pilgrim or that other one. I forget the name. It's that stupid first-person shooter that Jens liked. I forget the name of, but
oh my god. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They reviewed it and everything on Chapter Select. I can't remember what it was now.
Right.
Yes. It's a Ryogo Gotoku joint and everything. God dang it. No, I can't think of it. But anyway, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. The only trailer that kind of boring was Fort Solis looked pretty bad, and the reviews echoed that. And the Crew Motorfest looked really boring.
Yeah, there's going to be a 5-hour trial for that game, which I'm sure that's going to need that to get people interested in there.
Yeah.
Scott brings up that he tried to play. Yes, we did the same thing. We tried to play Scott Pilgrim with 3 friends, and we kept one of us kept getting knocked out, and it made it to where we did not want to play online again.
And then me and Jens played it, and we beat the first level. Hit the button for next level, and it transported us to the end of the game, or to like the last level. And it's like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Yeah, that's how that thing works. So I think that's gonna be it, unless you had something that you.
No, it's excited for Mud Runner or that Expedition game, and yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I need to let y'all know
that game was called Shadow Warrior. That was it.
Shadow Warrior. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was that like Bionic something. Not Bionic Commando, but it's like some game that only released on PS3 and 360 and it didn't ever get brought over here. Brought over to the other consoles. I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah, I don't
know. But yes, so
although one last thing, I thought that Wukong trailer is funny, just because of how much Dragon Ball shit or Journey to the West shit that they're coming out with nowadays.
Yes,
and it's like there are more Chinese books out there, people. Like,
hey, whatever floats your boat there.
Right.
So if you're not playing Sea of Stars, which again is out right now, you can go play it right now. You can go play that Daymare 1994 Sandcastle game, which again is like a Resident Evil 4 sort of homage game that I talked about last week. So if you want to hear my thoughts on it, you can listen to the show last week. I thought it was fine. The Samba de Amigo Party Central is out on the Switch. as well. So if you're looking for a rhythm game to play, there's one right there, and they are going to have DLC for that game too. So yeah. Excite Byte 64 is hitting the Switch Online as well. If you were,
I remember that being not great.
No, it was. It wasn't, but I guess if you're happy about that, then
Right.
go for it. I shouldn't have to again tell you that you can go buy that expensive ass edition of Starfield and play that before the next time we have a show, if you want to do that. The Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which is a weird looking action game.
It's the spiritual successor to Jet Grind Radio.
Yes, that. It looks cool. I mean, I've liked what I saw from it, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's gotten decent reviews. Yeah.
And then of course also Baldur's Gate 3 will be out by then too. So there's two big games to be playing. If you haven't played Baldur's Gate 3 on PC yet, then you can play on your PlayStation.
It's funny that Madden came out within the past week or so and got terrible reviews and no one cared.
Oh, who's surprised that Madden hasn't been well reviewed in forever?
Right.
So I want to know who is excited for that. Yeah. So that being said, I think that's going to do it for us this week.
Yep.
Thank you so much to Scott, and I'm not going to
other dude
GZDR Forev on Twitch for watching the whole way through and commenting. You guys made it more enjoyable for us here. And yeah, it's so much more fun when you guys comment live and are watching and stuff. It's gives us a lot more to talk about. But we'll be back next week, and we'll have I think. Hold on, no, the 6th is before we do a show again. So or after. So I won't be able to give you any thoughts on Starfield, but I have more thoughts on Sea of Stars at least, and whatever else is going on in gaming. I'm sure everything will be about Starfield probably next week, or Baldur's Gate on console or whatever. But you never know. Sometimes gaming surprises us. We're getting into that fall season where it feels like everything gets not as bad as it used to be, but still you get a lot of things get smashed into the season. So we'll see how that goes. Until then, everybody, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, whether it's on the YouTube channel, WTO Network, or you go find us on audio, Video Games to the Max. You can go listen, find out whenever we do an episode. Check out all the other things that are part of the network as well. And see you later, everyone.
Later.
Bye.